Waterline Ad Hoc Subcommittee. Commissioner Mansfield, do you mind leading us in the invocation?
I'll be glad to. Dear Jesus, we just thank you for this opportunity to gather together and to just come together and solve problems for the community, and just ask you to give us wisdom and discernment and understanding. Lord, I just pray that you would just guide our steps, and just thank you for all the public officials that are willing to serve in this capacity, as well as those who are in capacity of serving our citizens through water and sewer and electric and public service, Lord, and law enforcement and fire, Lord. We just thank you for all those who serve and are willing to help others. And so we just bless our time today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Graves, second by Commissioner Mansfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous approval. Recognition of the public. I know we have some citizens in the room, and I'd also like to recognize we have 3 water utility districts: White House, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Harrell; Westmoreland, Mr. Mayor Kirkman; and Castaic Springs, Bethpage, Mr. Graves. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please state your name and address for the record.
Mark, 1031 Katie Lane, Bethpage.
You'll have up to 5 minutes.
August the 20th, my house caught on fire and wasn't totally destroyed due to the response of the volunteer fire department. But we have no access to any fire hydrant in the area on the road at all, and they have to bring water trucks in. And not only the Oak Grove Fire Department, which is the fire department that services my area, they also had to get Gallatin Volunteer Fire Department, Southeast Fire Department, Highland Fire Department to make sure they had plenty of water. And so that's my biggest issue is we have no access to a fire hydrant. Been on well water. I've lived there for 23 years. I've always had nothing but well water. My understanding is they brought a water line down Rock Ridge Road and Smith Thompson, but come back our lane, everybody on the street had to agree to tap into it in order to bring the water line down. One of my neighbors is on disability, limited income, would nowhere have the funds to be able to tap into. So, you know, even if I wanted to, because the neighbors don't have the ability or the funds, you know, I don't have no access to any kind of water except the well water.
We'll do things a little different here. Normally, Commissioner Taylor, Chairman of the Budget Committee, interacts with citizens during public comment, and I'm going to do that too. So, your road, what we're doing now, this is a preliminary meeting with the utility districts to look for roads with need and that we can fit, that will meet the criteria for a grant process. It is what we're trying to do now. We have to have the utility districts to say, okay, yes, we are willing to participate in the process, because Sumner County doesn't have a water utility district. We're at the mercy of Sumner County government. We're at the mercy of the water utility districts that reside within our county and provide the access to the water. So we're grateful to have y'all here today. So that's what we're doing today. And I'm aware of your situation and a lot of situations out in our district. So did you have anything else? Okay. Anyone else from the public wishing?
Point 2. We have been all in our
Could
house.
could you give her your name and
I'm
address
sorry.
for the record?
It's Nora, Nora, Wiggins, Wiggins.
And your address.
929 Bug Hollow Road, Gallatin. Which have been in our house for 23 years. And the water line from White House Utility that they provide ends 3/4 of a mile from our house on the east and a half a mile from our house on the west. So we got 1.25 miles in there where there's no utility provided water line. There are 5 people at least and possibly 6. One man has a well. Another family who are deceased, but there have been relatives living in the house until recently, has a cistern. We ran our own water line 1/2 mile down the hill, through the creek, up the hill, and back down the hill. Lots of breaks when we were first there. We have a break right now. Thankfully, it's a slow one, but our water bill has doubled, and he hasn't been able to find it. He's a little aged to be walking that terrain. He didn't want to say that, but he is. But we had 2 companies in the past to come out that said they repaired water leaks. They took one look, the representatives took one look from each company and said, no way, we're out of here. They would not tackle it. Our neighbor, another neighbor ran his own water line, and we have new neighbors moving in across the road from us at the top of the bluff that will run his own water line. So we've got these 5, and we think, I was telling Mr. Taylor, he saw a gentleman living in the creek, so we think he probably doesn't have, and that would make 6. And our neighbors that are deceased came to our house several years ago and said, well, are you willing to pay $600 to tap into a water line? I think there were 2 of us. At that time, there were only 3 or 4 of us that didn't have water. And as he said, not everybody could do that, so we didn't get the water line. And he also talked to Mr. Harrell several years ago, who told him it'd be $300,000 to run a water, and that's several years ago, to run a water line that 1.25 miles down the road. But again, we thought the line would settle by now. There would not be more breaks. And we're getting to the age where we're probably going to have to sell that house, and it's going to be an obstacle for selling it.
Now,
We can't.
are you on the Portland side of Bug Hollow or the Cottontown side? Portland side of Bug Hollow. I think it would be White House. I don't know the boundaries from everybody, so, okay. Anyone else?
I live at 1246 Smith Thompson Road. My understanding is that Smith Thompson, I don't know whether every single resident at this point is on the water line. There's only one hydrant, and that's on Rockbridge. My house is 1 mile in, and it's a 2-mile road. The house at the end of the road caught on fire recently, and it was saved well because there was a hydrant right there. We had an out of control. Every firefighter that I spoke to told me it was one of the hottest they'd ever had to come to. And 5 animals were lost. And Smith Thompson's not any better off, even though we do have water, the potable area, we have clean water. It's not well water, but we don't have fire hydrants either. They stopped at Rockbridge. There's one at Rockbridge and Buckterry. And then there's one at Rockbridge and Smith Thompson. Those are the only available hydrants anywhere around. And we've also had considerable problems with teeth. There's just been a lot of problems with the well water that I've seen since coming to that page. So.
Anyone else from the public?
Mr. Chairman, did you want to address with them about the lower income grants that we might have?
Yeah, I'll do that under my report.
Yes, sir.
No one else from the public? I'll close public comment. Approval of the minutes from August the 10th, 2020.
So move.
Have a motion from Commissioner Mansfield, second from Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, my report, like I said earlier, this is a information sharing and gathering. I'll say informal will be informal tonight. So we know where we need to get. We just got to talk about how we're going to get there. So the county is currently in a grant process on 3 roads, Rape Coates Road, Harrison Lane, and Absher Branch. 2 of those roads in the Westmoreland Utility District and 1 of them in the Portland Utility District. They are about to wrap up Rape Coates, making connections, and I think they're pretty close to, and you can interject, Mr. Mayor, are they about done with Rape Coates?
They're going to try to complete the testing on the first half tomorrow.
Okay. And I think they've already moved most of the equipment over to Absher Branch. And that,
They're just trying to get the lines cleaned out, get the test approved. That's hold up now. The first set of tests failed.
okay. Flushing the lines out. Okay. We can't officially apply for a grant with the state of Tennessee until we close. We can do what we're doing now. The next step, or during tonight, we would like to discuss with the water utility districts their capability to apply for a grant, or accept a grant if we applied for it and got it. Roads that they've looked at that they would like to pursue the grant with. And we'll plan our next meeting. So, like I said, with the state, we've got to close out. Once they complete construction, they have to go into paperwork mode, is what I call it. So we're in a good spot. We're in September. The deadline to apply for the next grant will be February the 28th. We have to hold 2 formal public meetings about the application process. So we could do that as late as December and January, worst case scenario. So we're in a good spot, I feel like. So to go through our agenda under new business, I listed the 3 utility districts that are here. Portland would be here, but with last Monday being a holiday, their regular meeting was pushed to tonight, and I didn't know that when we set our agenda, the date for this meeting. So I will welcome the mayor of Westmoreland and let you just give an update on what you think we can do or where we can apply. You and I have talked about some roads up there that we know is in desperate need. Just the city's capabilities. Come on up or just talk real.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to get to discuss this very important problem with everyone. I can remember about 30 years ago, I was looking at property in Upper Sumter County, and they told me when we looked at the property that there was no water available. So my wife and I had to make a decision on what we wanted to do. Did we want to invest in land and hope for a well to hold out, or did we want to find something else? And we ultimately ended up moving to Westmoreland and have made a home there. With that being said, with the Rape Coates water line and of course the Harrison Lane line, the Harrison Lane line only had like 5 houses on it, so that was not a big problem for us. But the Rape Coates line, we don't know exactly how it is going to have an effect on our system. A lot of folks are under the misconception that there's a water line in the ground and you can just hook up to it and you instantly have water. Well, that's a great thought and it's worked well for years, but all of a sudden now water is becoming a very valuable commodity. just signed a 5-year contract for our basin withdrawal from the city of Gallatin out to Cumberland. And we are now limited to 750,000 gallons a day. Our plans were for 1 million gallons a day. So obviously, we've been cut 25% just right off the bat for the next 5 years, unless we can go back and renegotiate a permit with them. So with that being said, we have a lot of dead end lines that go out in the Baton Beasley Road area, out going toward Garrett's Creek area, that are dead end lines. Bishop Trout, Henry Harris, several of those. It would be my hope that in the future that the county could maybe help come back and help tie some of those lines in together, which would not only benefit people that are between those dead end lines, but would help our system out in where we don't have to just go blow water off at the end of the line to make sure that the water's safe. You say how big a deal is all of these guys that work in the water industry realize that you've got to maintain a certain level of chlorine for the water to be safe. And what was happening with us out on the Herschel Isles line last week, they had to actually flush 77,000 gallons out of that line to get it where it was meant for correct criteria that it was considered safe water. And depending on the temperature and the land and everything, that has a big effect on the residual chlorine in the line. So at this point, I guess what I'm trying to say, and I say all of that at this time, to until we find out the effect that the red coach line is going to have on our system, and how many people, let's say there's 30 people added to that line, and they use 2,000 gallons a month, that's just 60,000 gallons. But let's say more people add on to it, or that 60,000 turns into 120,000. You know, we're just calculating our system, but we're being very cautious about it at this time. Number one concern for us, and my number one concern, is I've got to take care of my citizens within the corporate city limits of Westmoreland. And all these other municipalities will tell you the same thing. And with us being the city-owned system, it's not like the guys that pretty much have the reign that, well, it was discussed a few years ago, possibly us selling our system to private enterprise. And those guys would have the opportunity and funds available, and I say funds available. We received word today that on our 2021 CDBG grant, we were turned down. So this is the 6th year in a row that we've not been able to get the points to be able to get a grant for the city of Westmoreland. So all of our funds have to come from our customers. And we just got out from a consent order, which is basically a court order from the comptroller's office in the state of Tennessee, telling us that we did not have enough funds to maintain the system. So we've got that back up and going. The court order was released in 2018, and we're back on top of things now. But we've got to be very cautious about how we move forward. And it's not that we don't want anyone to have water. I've got close friends that their well went bad after 36 years, just last month. Yeah. And you know, my heart goes out to them, but we just can't engineer a line and throw it in the ground and run it out there anymore. It's like this lady was saying, it's very expensive, and all these guys that do it for a living know how expensive it is. So, thank you, and I'll be here listening.
Let me ask you, Mr. Mayor, is there any roads that you could recognize tonight that might possibly be able to be included in the next grant process, or do you need more information from?
if we could tie in Bishop Trout Road, Racecourse Road, Henry Harris Road to Racecourse Road, all of that is in the county. And once that happens, I think it will allow us more capacity for you to take in roads like, is it East Garrett's Creek?
Yes.
And some of those out in there where they are seriously needing them.
Who did you tell me? Bishop Trout, Raven Coates?
Henry Harris.
Okay. Yeah, East Garrett's Creek. Well,
I'm trying to think of there's a couple more roads out there. I know there is a big need out there.
yeah, Garrett's Creek Church doesn't even have water. It's on the state highway.
And even some of those off of Pleasant Grove Road out there probably could use it also.
Dave Beasley, most especially. That's ones I've received a lot of calls from that road. Over in the, of course, Portland's not here tonight, but Popcorn Homes Road, they was in the newspaper, so. And I think that's teetering between you and Portland.
It's on board.
It's Portland's, on Portland's side? Okay. So I guess, can you come back possibly next month at our next meeting and see if we're in any better shape with data from the rate codes?
In a month, we probably won't have the data because it'll take a month before it will even come in, and then we'll be a month behind that collecting
So
all the information. But we may have some of it.
in November, maybe? You're welcome any month.
Well, you just give me the time, I'll be here.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mayor. Did you have any questions for us?
No, sir, not this time.
Okay. All right. Any committee member have questions for?
I had a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Just,
go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't know, like, when you said the Gallatin, your lease for the basin was cut short by about 25%. What was the reason for that? I'm just curious, going from $1 million down to 750,000
I guess
gallons.
that's all that it had been. We've got 1 million gallons of capacity, which we're required by law to have a 24-hour supply. Take it now for granted that you get a hole knocked in a line, especially if it's a 10-inch line. It's my understanding that a 2-inch line, if it was broken and was flowing at full capacity, it would empty one of those tanks in 24 hours. If we're pumping and can't pump that 1 million gallons a day now, we can't have a whole lot of capacity going more out in the county because we don't have the capacity to take care of our own now. And that is actually where we're standing at this point. And inside the city, it's growing pretty rapidly. We have a lot of folks that are purchasing property, tearing down houses and building new homes on it because there's not enough land that's available. And all the land that is out around Bear Car Road, Gladwich Road, and all out in the county. Of course, Sumner County is one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Tennessee. So with that, the availability of water is just becoming a really very important issue. And it's not, the state has not required us yet. And so far, my city council members have not deemed it necessary to put a moratorium on the water, but it has been discussed. And we actually probably have 2 or 3 roads that's in our area that we need to put a moratorium on until some more work is done and things are improved. So we're stepping very, very lightly in a very serious minefield with it right now.
Well, I think it's another case of we're not starting to outgrow our infrastructure. We've already surpassed it. And playing catch up hurts. And that's exactly what we're having to do now.
have an engineer here, I'll let them talk more of, see, when we do these fire hydrants, when they run we get a grant for a road. Of course, fire hydrants are part of that. It's my understanding the engineering person gets with the city and the fire department that represents that area. Is that correct? So I've seen roads in my district that have a fire hydrant every quarter of a mile. And then I've seen roads that'll have one fire hydrant on the road. And they were done with grants. So it just, one,
I guess two things. One is that, the county set requirements, or the city set requirements for fire protection. They may just require 500 gallons per minute of flow with a certain pressure. And so you have to check the hydraulics all the way back from where it's coming from to see if you can deliver that at that point. So you might have a 6-inch main that gets extended down the road, but because the hydraulics don't support fire hydrants, you might not be able to put fire hydrants on it. Or, if you're closer to town where you've got tanks close to that and larger pipelines, then you might be able to get all kinds of fire protection, fire hydrants everywhere. So the further you get out, the tougher it is to supply the flows. So in some cases where you've got water lines, you might not be able to supply a fire hydrant, even if there's a larger diameter line. Does that answer your question?
all right, next we have on the agenda White House Utility District, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Mr. Carroll, for being able to attend. And I think we may have heard from a citizen that may be in your utility district that, and your area, your district's got some need, I know. Is there people that you know of that's,
We've got 366 unserved homes in our entire service area in Sumner County. Now, I did not bring the list with me of roads, but we already have all the roads identified and priced out.
okay,
So, from a grant standpoint, I mean, we're happy to work with you on that any way we can.
okay,
Usually what we've run into on those is that income threshold.
yeah,
That's usually where it gets hung up, at least in the ones we work with other entities on.
okay.
But next meeting, I'll bring you a list, or I'll send you a list.
Okay. Yeah, and just so, before we adjourn and everything, we'll discuss the meeting date for the next meeting. And the utility districts, in my opinion, have an open invitation. We'll let y'all know when we're having the meeting, and you're welcome to, because it's, you're the ones that have to accept the grants, so you should be, have a say at the table, in my opinion, so, but, did anybody have any questions for Mr. Thompson?
So the majority of the 366 homes that you just spoke of, are they in the Cottontown area or just scattered?
They are scattered. There's one particular area, Petey Branch Road. That's one that is fairly populated, that we've had issues. We've looked at that for over, I've been there 32 years, so we've looked at that about every 5-6 years. It gets into this hydraulic issue. We've been trying to beef up our system down in that area for some time. So that's one that's what I would call a densely populated area, but the rest of them are pretty much scattered out. Some of the ones we've identified actually have well water, and we actually ran some surveys. I believe when we were doing that Sumner County pilot program, trying to find out who would want to get on the line, who wouldn't, and get responses back. Sometimes it's a little difficult.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that one, the majority of them are just pretty much scattered out here. Most of them are north, up toward the Portland area, up and around the area of Robertson County, Center County line.
Yeah, I know in the past, Mr. Guthrie, from the 12th district, had some concern, some of his constituents. I don't know exactly which areas, but he's in another meeting right now, or he would probably be here too, so whoever's there.
Sir, I know you said a lot of them are scattered, but the one section that you know you need to go to, and I guess obviously y'all done some of the surveys for that area. Is it also, you say beefing up the hydraulics, is it more about getting everything set up before that area to be able to push it on?
Yeah.
And now, as far as the grant process goes, can we tie that in with if you've got, and here's my question, the reason I say this. If we had the surveys done for a section of the road I know we need, and our intention from the budget committee is any grant that we can apply for, we're gonna match. And we also want to be able to, when the year comes, have whatever we've got, and if somebody else hasn't applied for theirs, to be able to step in and say, hey, just by chance through our state representatives, we've got some other ones that we're ready to go with. So we kind of want to have as many lined up as we can, to be quite frank, to take what we can get. Is that something long-term, and I defer to the chairman on that, if that we would want to look at is figuring that out?
You say step up at the grant process, they don't, if somebody doesn't take theirs, they don't offer that to somebody else. In my opinion, everything I've seen, it just rolls back to the next process. So let's say Smith County applied for a grant, maybe got accepted, but couldn't come up with a match money. I don't think they offer that to the next person in line. I think that money just goes back to the next year, isn't that?
That's right. Go back and
So we wouldn't be in line, say, if we come in 11th and they had 10.
Yeah,
I'm all for
I just
it.
want to, and the reason I said it, sir, is if we've got all our ducks in a row, I want us to be able to ask and have them say no.
Yeah.
And that's, Chairman Taylor and I have talked about a lot of different times how important it is, but we have to make sure we've got everything lined up, and the county can match everything, but there's very few counties that even do that, but we can't support it by ourselves. But
Sure.
if you had it prepared and kind of ready to go, always in a back burner, I'm just saying that it's something, and I'm sure they would say no, but we can ask and we can put some pressure with some other people.
Okay.
So,
Well, one year we applied, let's see, how many years? I've been here 10 years. And we've got 1, 2, 3 grants in 10 years. One of y'all applied for before I got here. We just got it.
Yeah.
It was in the process before I was
I
elected.
know we missed out on two because we were too high income
Yeah, we got
for our low
denied.
income area. Yeah.
Raven Coach Road actually got denied, was one of the ones that got denied. Next time we got accepted. But things that will help with citizens, and y'all know this as well as I do. When you go to a road, say we go to your road, ma'am, if we don't get good participation in the survey process, we're not going to get accepted on that road. We have to have good participation in completing the surveys. Income, low to moderate income, that's another factor. So anybody that you can communicate with on roads that doesn't have water, and ask them to, if we select their road to do a survey, to please participate. You don't have to take the water, but to the ones to help your neighbors. I got blessed out by a guy that, he thought that we were going to be watching him and everything else. And I just said, well, you could be the reason that your neighbors didn't get access to water. So would you like me to tell your neighbors that you're going to cause them to not have access to water? Of course, I wouldn't do that, but anyway, any participation that we can have for that. So you've got some roads I know in your
point, yeah.
Yeah, in your district that doesn't. What's the dead end road?
Willis Springs, east, west.
I can't.
I have to look at the list.
But we'll get the next meeting maybe have some more, maybe some target roads, because to do the meetings, we need to probably have the target roads that we're gonna target in the areas, before we start the process of having the official public meeting and the application process. So I do really appreciate y'all coming, so. Mr. Gray?
I can't remember on the list. It's off Center Point. There are some roads that did not have water, believe it or not, if I'm not mistaken, or if it's, I have to go back and look at the list. They were in my district, so I was surprised when I saw that. But don't quote me on it, so I'll have to go look back at the list. Find out, and I'll get it back to you.
Mr. Graves is our vice chairman, and he's also a member of the Castine and Springs Bethpage Water.
I just, we're in pretty good shape for us, the hydraulics that we're on. We probably, depends on what Gallatin does, we got a contract, but it's kind of open end with them now. They hadn't put any kind of restrictions on us at this point. Now, if there was an emergency out there somewhere, tornado, something like that, where their customers, as I think Mary Kirkman, their customers would come first before us. And back in '08, or I think when we had the tornado, they shut us down for 2 or 3 days. Of course, fortunately, we had enough storage tanks to provide some water to about everybody. And I'll address one other thing, is the fire hydrant issue. It's a problem in probably most rural utility districts. You may have a 6-inch line, you may have enough 500 or so, whatever minutes the state would require, but still, if you draw enough water out of those fire hydrants, you're going to shut everybody else down. It's going to suck all the other water out of their pipes. So we try to get the volunteer fire departments to have enough water through ponds or whatever they use extra, their truck tankers or whatever. And that ain't always the case, I'm sure. But most of the utility districts is only for required safe drinking water. That's what we're, and we don't have to have but like a 20 PSIs, which is nothing at the house. Now we begin to require some developers or landowners, whoever that's building houses now, especially up in the Mount Vernon area, maybe where y'all live up in that area, as having an in-house pump. I had one in my house that would keep them enough water, even if they got down low in a break or a situation, whatever. But our utilities got about, I know a 5 or 6 road. We got Scott Road, we got Homer Scott Road, we got Preacher Robinson. I think there's a couple up around Buck Perry up in that area may not have water. Now our cutoff is Paul Thompson. Y'all probably, some of y'all know where that's at. Portland's on the other side, and we stop at Paul Thompson.
Hickory Corner.
Yeah, Hickory Corner. We got right in that area. We got some a little bit more needs some water. I'm gonna we're working on an updated list now too. Our old list, a lot of those roads that we've done ourselves, big savings or water losses come down, and whatever the case might be. But we've been able to upgrade some of those roads. We can take them off the list. But that's, I guess, all I have. If y'all have any questions, that's in the Castine and Bethpage Utility District, or any district, as far as that, I'd be glad to see if I can get an answer for them. If I don't have an answer.
If I can make a request of the utility districts, that this is, I've requested it before and some people have it. If we can get a list, a road list that you're aware of that does not have access, even if it's parts of roads, like you said, there's, you go here and you go here, but then here's left out. And maybe have that by November. Would that give you enough time? Maybe. Just a request. I have no authority over y'all, so all I can do is ask. But,
No
um, and anything else?
No, I think it's, unless somebody else got a question.
I will go back in history a little bit. We was talking about grants before. Out in the Rock Bridge area is what I call it. We call everything little communities where I was born and raised. We applied one year and didn't get a grant, but we had a lot of need on a couple roads actually. So my first term, I think about the third year of my first term, we paid county funded running water on two roads, Switchboard Road and Claypool Road. Those are in, I think, your district. I think it cost us $300,000 and something back then, because I'm talking back in 2012, probably that time frame. So everything's went up since then. But where we get our bang for our buck is, say we get a $200,000 or even we got 550 one year, but we have a 20% match. We put money with that as a county, match money. Well, we have added to the scope of the work, but you get a better bang for your buck with the contractors. If they can do $800,000 worth of work versus $500,000 worth of work, they're more apt to probably give you a better bid. Am I speaking out of turn? So that's where citizens need to reach out to their county commissioners, because we're the funding body. We have some money available that we can utilize for these grants, and wouldn't affect their taxes or anything. So y'all know the money I'm talking about, the commissioners do. So I just ask that even the water utility districts to talk to your county commissioners, because we have some funds, right? So let's look at setting a date for our next meeting. Everybody else meets the first and second Monday. Let me ask the utility districts and everyone else, Monday or Tuesday, would Monday be better? Commissioners, Mondays.
Monday's fine.
Let's
Monday the 12th, which is the next legislative and budget committee meeting.
Let's see, legislative meets at 5:30.
Budget at 6.
Budget's at 6. Is 4:30 a good time or is that okay with you, Jessica? So you want to shoot for 4:30? Wait, I think the 12th is a holiday.
It's Columbus Day.
So is it, I wonder if it's the second Monday again, so it'll be the third Monday. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
So do you want to do Tuesday the 13th?
Let's see.
Oh, okay.
You'll be out of town that next Monday night.
Yeah, I'll be out of town the next week.
November the what?
October. What about the 5th?
November.
October. October, let's see, on the first Monday, we have emergency services,
Actually, I'm gonna be out of town that week.
general ops.
And education.
And education. So it'll be 5, 5:30, and 6 is when they meet. 4:30. Either that or Mr. Graves, we can go to
About the 13th, the Tuesday.
the 13th.
Tuesday the 13th. You guys available? Tuesday the 13th, 4:30.
Is that okay with everybody? I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, Tuesday the 13th. At least it's not Friday the 13th, so,
Where do you wanna meet at?
112.
Um,
Well, are
I
they,
can have
have
Leah
they took
notice
that
it.
room over? Somebody took that room over?
They're doing Chronos time clock training
Oh, okay,
in there right now. We had a consultant come down here,
okay.
but I don't think they'll be here then,
Well,
but I'll make sure tomorrow.
If not, well, let's do, they're preferably chambers if not, because there
Okay.
shouldn't be anybody in the chambers at 4:30.
I'll find out tomorrow, and then I can
Okay.
have Leah notice to me.
Everybody know where room 112 is?
Yes, it works.
If you don't, can we get your email? And Mayor, I have your email. Can we send it to Portland? I need to get you Portland's email.
Me?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
yeah, what's in the meeting?
Meeting notice. That way we're all on the same page in the same room. Uh, Does anybody have anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I do. I had a question. So, Mr. Graves, you spoke about how ability to pump water from the ponds or stuff. So, do the volunteer fire departments, my understanding, they didn't have like the equipment in order to pump from the ponds up there. Is that true? Or I don't know. I don't know what the
I'm not-
volunteer, like if
They
it,
got pumps, they called it pump. It's coming out of a fire hydrant, but they can only, grab you if you got it.
but is there any equipment available like to those types of volunteer fire, like truly if somebody has a pond on their property or water source nearby to pump from that
No.
as a source? Is there?
All four of the responding fire departments told me that they could not do that. I had a pond, it reduced the expense of our insurance, and yet absolutely is not utilizable during the fire.
And why would?
They don't have the equipment necessary.
Can I offer you a suggestion? And it may be too late this year. I don't know what the fund will be next year. But we fund the volunteer fire departments. We don't fund them totally. We make a donation to them, each one of them. We increased that donation last year, not in the 2021 budget process, but the 19. Yeah. There's 100 and something.
$138,000.
$138,000
Allocated 2 years in a row.
allocated to the emergency services committee to divvy up, for lack of a better word, between the volunteer fire departments. The volunteer fire departments has to come together amongst themselves and go to the emergency services committee and request the money. Bo Taylor can't go and say, hey, here's this money. It goes through committees, then it goes to the full commission. Goes what? Emergency services budget, full commission. So I think they're probably meeting on that tonight, emergency services, some money for volunteer firemen. So encourage your volunteer fire departments to reach out to their chiefs who have an association, from what I understand, within the county, to reach out to the emergency services committee here for funding for pumps. Because you can buy water pumps. We used to fill water tanks for setting tobacco out of ponds, so I know how to pump water, how it would probably take a bigger pump than what we had. And that's off topic, but I'm just offering suggestions because we're here to help. This is hopefully a helpful committee meeting. And I know it's been long, and I appreciate everybody's time and patience. And if we don't have anything else, I'll entertain another motion.
So moved and adjourned.
Second.
Thank y'all.